In this section of training, we will discuss the encoding components of an OG lesson. We'll review the purpose of each component and offer some teacher tips for supporting this section of the lesson. Encoding or spelling is only possible when students have automatized sound symbol correspondences. In an OG lesson, this is practiced through daily auditory drills, phoneme segmentation exercises, and spelling words, review and new, as well as sentence dictation. All of the encoding work is generally completed on a student response sheet, or what we refer to as an SRS. Here are samples of different SRS forms that we have available on our website to support different stages of instruction. It is also possible to use notebooks or lined paper. Just make sure that students have a format in which they record their answers, so that they have a structure for quickly checking their work and making corrections. While we refer to this next set of activities in an Orton-Gillingham lesson as encoding, it's important to realize that much more is going on. Through these activities in the auditory drill, words to spell, memory words, and sentence dictation, we're engaging students in critical multisensory practice. We remember what we write down. This process of writing while we say sounds or letters supports our ability to retain that information so that we can retrieve it and remember it later. It is a critical component of the Orton-Gillingham lesson. The encoding portion of an OG lesson should maintain the same brisk pace in which we deliver the decoding part of the lesson. Some suggestions to support a brisk pace would involve making sure that students are positioned at their desks or seats for all of the SRS work. Their seats should be facing a whiteboard or document camera screen so that they can quickly see responses and self-check and self-correct their work. We also encourage, from a materials perspective, that papers are already distributed before students return to their seats, and that we use pens or markers over pencils. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Another tip to support good pacing is utilizing a teacher or student model for displaying correct answers. It's very difficult for a teacher to monitor individual responses and give appropriate feedback and keep the lesson moving. Instead, the responsibility shifts toward monitoring the student model's responses and correcting those. If the rest of the class has the same correct response as the model, they simply move on and have validation that their response was accurate. If they do not have an answer that matches the model, they simply cross out their mistake and correct it on their paper. Often, this is enough feedback to support students in error correction on their own. When the teacher gathers student response papers, that's when they get essential information about error patterns among the entire class that would warrant reteaching, or error patterns for specific students that might need some remediation and extra support. It is not important to grade every SRS sheet, but it is important to use them periodically to monitor student achievement. On the screen is a sample of the encoding activities from training lesson number 2 in your lesson plan packet. In the next several sections of training, we will demonstrate how to deliver these encoding components and the role of the student response sheet and student model in each of these activities. This concludes the student response sheet or encoding component of training.